We know the government has had to tackle this problem. I'm sure you accept that it is not great that hundreds and hundreds of people are risking their lives travelling across the Channel, frankly, almost every day. This is a solution. It might not work, but it's at least worth giving a go, which is what the government is doing.
Well, I think it would make more sense to tackle the problem at its source, and that is to say that we should be offering people safe and legal routes in order to come here, so that you work with other countries in the region, you offer the facility for people to register as refugees, to have their claims assessed, and then to come to this country. And we're not doing that at the moment, and that's why you are getting this dreadful trade in the hands of people smugglers across the Channel, which puts hundreds and thousands of lives at risk every week. And that's what's got to change here. What you've got here is something which actually lacks a bit of respect and humanity in the way that it treats people, and is actually going to be that much more expensive at the end of the day. We calculate on the basis of the Australian experience it could cost up to £1.4 billion at a time when we're struggling to help people with the cost of their energy bill and other cost of living crises. And it's not going to stop people making that journey. It's just going to mean that when they get to this country through the people smugglers' routes, then they are going to be shipped off to Rwanda, a country where, incidentally, we're already taking hundreds of asylum seekers every year because of Rwanda's difficulties and their human rights record.
Sorry, but isn't that the point? As in, like, the British government do have schemes for Afghanistan, for Ukraine, for Hong Kong, for Syria, for asylum seekers fleeing conflicts there. If you are coming from Rwanda to the UK to seek asylum, the whole point, the Dublin Convention, the EU's Dublin Convention, the EU adhered to, is that you should seek refuge in the first country that you come to. I mean, there's no way if you leave Rwanda, or indeed anywhere else in Sub-Saharan Africa, or the Middle East, that Britain is the first.
That's something which has sort of taken root, but it's not actually what's in the convention. And, we can't expect to take all refugees from everywhere, but we have to accept that we've got a responsibility as one of the world's biggest economies with the history that we have around the world to offer safe and legal routes. That's the way that you will get rid of people smugglers, in exactly the same way as America got rid of bootleggers in the 1930s by ending prohibition.
But the point is,
the industry that is people smuggling is one that is created by the system that this government currently operates.
But the whole point is, Alistair, the government would argue that they have got
to work much better is actually to get the Home Office working effectively. When Priti Patel became Home Secretary, there were 2,000 people.
That's fine. I'm allowed, hopefully, to ask a question here, Alistair.
To 60,000 just by virtue of her and her department's incompetence. Get the basics right before you start coming up with big schemes about shipping people off to third countries, or making wave machines, or using high frequency sonic devices in order to push people back.
Okay, well, I mean, I think the government is not going to involve in that. They've ruled out that possibility. No, but I have to ask. Come on, Alistair. I have to ask you a question. You can't just filibuster this whole interview.
Ridiculous of all.
Yeah. Okay. Let me ask.
Down the English Channel.
Alistair, let me ask you a question, please.
Any compassionate system wouldn't even entertain these ideas for a second, but they are given serious consideration by Priti Patel and her colleagues in the Home Office.
Yeah, I mean, well, there's a whole world of difference between essentially kind of coming up with ideas and then implementing them. The whole point of government, I think, is to come up with ideas, even if they seem strange, wild or unethical at the time. It is always, of course, worth considering a range of options. But let me put it this to you, that the government has a way of managing asylum claims in particular areas. I've mentioned Ukraine and Syria and Afghanistan in the past. That the problem is, for lots of people in this country, is that they look at people making that journey. They say that it is perfectly safe to stay in France, or indeed many other countries they've travelled through. And in addition to that, that lots of these people are not asylum seekers. They are economic migrants. They're taking advantage of Britain's hospitality. They are staying in hotels that cost millions of pounds every year, and that's not acceptable. There has to be an act of deterrence to stop that from happening. And if they are genuine refugees in particular areas, there are means of safe passage to Britain, as we're seeing with the Ukrainian refugee scenario at the moment, or indeed with the Afghanistan programme that's in place.
Well, first of all, far be it from me to let the facts get in the way of a good scare story, but in fact the Home Office's own figures show that 98% of those people coming across the Channel are asylum seekers. They claim asylum when they get here, and the vast majority of those applications for asylum are then granted. So these are not people, for the most part, the overwhelming part, who are economic migrants. And yes, you know, we do have safe routes for some countries, and it has to be said, though, that because of Home Office incompetence, even the willingness to offer a safe route to people coming from Ukraine is such that we're not actually able to get them into this country. So it goes back to the efficiency and the ability of Priti Patel in running the Home Office, or the incompetence in running the Home Office at the moment. But, you know, if you are to offer safe and legal routes for some countries, then why do you not offer it as a default system? That would be the sensible thing, and it would mean that you would actually have a system that treated people fairly, that was able to regulate the numbers coming to this country, because we would be cooperating with other countries, and at the end of the day, you would have £1.4 billion to spend on helping people in this country meet the cost of heating and the other costs of living that are going through the roof at the moment.
Welcome to the GB News YouTube channel. You can watch us live 24 hours a day, catch up on your favourite shows, and join in the conversation in the comments below.
Don't forget to subscribe and you'll never miss any of our exclusive content.